Good morning and a warm welcome to those attending and also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. Details of the business to be considered today is shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room, and it is also accessible online under the live broadcast. For those present in the room and intending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statements you make will be recorded and made public. For those solely observing in the room today, welcome. You may wish to know that the camera is angled away from the public gallery where you are sitting. At the end of the public part of the meeting, when the committee moves to discuss any confidential matters, the live broadcast on YouTube will be cut. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be audible if the microphone is switched off, which is indicated by the red button. Fire alarm. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm does go off, please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building to the designated meeting points. Mobile and tablet devices. For those in the room, please switch off any mobile devices before the meeting starts or put them on silent now. Please note that the councillors on the committee may use their laptops or tablets during the meeting to view the agenda paperwork. Residents' feedback forms. You don't have any residents, but we have one. If you are mindful, can you please complete the yellow residents' feedback forms? The information on these forms is intended to help us to improve the way we run our meetings. Forms can be completed and left in this room for collection after the meeting or completed and returned by post to the addressee on the form. If you are watching on YouTube, you can also complete the form online and there is a link below the broadcast. Declarations of interest. Please ensure that you identify which item you have an interest in. State whether your interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and give the reason that you have an interest. Members need not declare an interest in any item on the agenda where they have already listed this interest on the register of interests. Furthermore, you do not need to declare an interest just because you are, for example, a ward councillor. So, we now go on to the agenda. Apologies for absence.
No apologies.
Do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations. Okay, so I just confirm that the items of business are marked Part 1 considered public. We have no Part 2 private. Have there been any notification or advance or urgent material that has been coming the last minute? No? Okay. Right, we must just run through the order of proceedings. I'm going to get ourselves to introduce ourselves. I am Councillor Becky Hagger, Chair of the Sub-Licensing Committee. I'm going to go to my right and round. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mrs Chantal MacLeod. I'm the Legal Officer for today's hearing.
Councillor Darren Davies, Vice Chairman of this committee.
Councillor Farley, Member of this committee.
Lois King, Principal Licensing Officer.
Anisha Tedji, Democratic Services.
Thank you very much. I know we're all aware of the order of proceedings, but I'll just go through them. We have the introductory by regulating officer, and that will be Ms Lois King, and then we'll have the applicant, who actually isn't here, and then any officers who have submitted representation, and then any residents and objectors. Then a discussion will be led, but everyone will go out of the room for the discussion. So can we start with Lois King, please, Regulatory Service Officers.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. You will have all received the report bundle and agenda and will be familiar with the application. This is a hearing to consider an application for a new temporary shop front street trading licence outside Home Needs, 97 to 99 High Street, Ruislip, HA4 8JN. The application was submitted by Mr. Rockalamin Agha, who is not here today. The applicant seeks a new licence to display household commodities, namely plastic storage boxes, flower pots and suitcases, projecting 2 metres from the shop front. The application was consulted upon. It commenced on the 11th of April 2024 and concluded on the 2nd of May 2024. The consultees were local ward councillors, the council's highways team, street scene enforcement team, parking services and the transport and town centres project team. The purpose of the consultation is to seek assurances that the applicant's proposals satisfy the requirements of the legislation and that they are suitable to be licensed. This new application has attracted 14 objections from the residents for the committee's consideration. These are appended as appendices 4 to 18 and can be found starting on page 49 of the pack. The Council's Highways team also submitted comments, and these are appended as Appendix 19, which can be found on page 66 of your pack. In light of the response from the Highways team, objectors were asked if such a modification, which was 1 metre only and only to the front left-hand side of the premises, so they were asked if a modification to the application would be agreeable in an attempt to commence mediation. However, those objectors who responded indicated that it was not a proposal that they would be prepared to agree to. The committee will have noted from the report bundle that complaints were received about goods being displayed on the pavement outside Home Needs prior to a licence application having been made, and then again during the consultation period. Appendix 20, which can be found on page 67 of the report, outlines the visits made by officers from the Environmental Enforcement Team, whilst information relating to visits made by licensing officers and subsequent correspondence with the applicant can be found on page 5 and Appendix 22, which is on page 70 of your report. I can advise the committee that no further complaints of goods being displayed on the pavement have been received by the licensing service. And in addition, when a visit was made on the 30th of May 2024 at 09:35 hours, it was noted that there were no goods on the pavement. Should the committee be minded to grant the licence, I would request that the committee refer to Appendix 3 of the report, which is the Council's adopted street trading policy, which is on page 20 of the pack. In paragraphs 4.1 and 4.2, you will find more information on what length of time, in terms of the duration of a licence, would be suitable for a new temporary licence application. The committee may also wish to attach additional conditions to the licence to deal with concerns raised in the objections. I have copies of the standard conditions which might be assistance of the committee should you require them. They can also, however, be found in Appendix 3 and 4 of your street trading policy, which is in Appendix 3 of the bundle. So I now invite the committee to determine the application, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, as you were saying that they were putting goods outside without a licence, first of all. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, that's the case, Councillor.
And also, we obviously visited them and we did fine them, prosecute them and fine them.
I believe that is the case. I think that's detailed on page 5 of the report. They did receive a fixed penalty notice and it was paid.
Lovely, thank you. I now put it out to councillors. Councillor Davies.
Lois, Appendix 22, the notice of application poster was not displayed. That email, did you get a response of the reason why?
I was told when I visited the site and spoke to the manager and an assistant that they hadn't been sent the poster to display by the owner, who is also the applicant. They did subsequently send an email which contained a picture of the poster on display at the shop, so it was eventually put up.
Can I come back?
Yes.
Do we know how long that was delayed by because of the owner of the business failing to provide relevant information?
I believe that is the case. I now put it out to councillors. Councillor Davies.
Lois, Appendix 22, the notice of application poster was not displayed. That email, did you get a response of the reason why? I couldn't see it in there, so I can see it was received, but unless because I can see there's a number of emails where he's very keen to receive the pavement licence, but I can't see when he confirmed it had gone up. If you haven't got the information to hand, don't worry. It's just have been nice to have known how quickly he was reacting to.
Yes, apologies for that. I can fire up my laptop, Councillor, and find the email if you'd like me to, but I can definitely confirm that there was an email from him with a photograph saying that it had been displayed. Otherwise, we would have followed up with him further, but the fact that I did not would suggest that that was the case, that he did actually put it up and I did receive the photo. Apologies for it not being in the report, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farley.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to understand the sequence of events a little bit better than has been elaborated so far. So with the business itself, they obviously went ahead and put things outside the shop front. Do we know how long between, I don't know when the business started up to when they applied for the licence after being told that they shouldn't? Because I was also curious as to whether or not if they are licence holders elsewhere, because I was also confused as to they don't seem to understand, or the applicant doesn't seem to understand the process.
So the first we heard about the shop being in existence and having its goods out on display was on the 26th of February, when the first complaint was received from a member of the public who said that a new shop called Home Needs had opened and were displaying goods on the pavement, and they wanted to know whether or not they had a licence. So that was the first that we knew about it. So then that's when the enforcement officers then were tasked to go and visit, and as a result of that visit, that then prompted the licence to come in. So so the trading licence application was received on the 9th of April, but there was a period obviously between the 26th of February and the 9th of April when they were open and trading and didn't have a licence.
Just a reminder, it's just questions to confirm. Yeah.
So very quick, Lewis. I'm not sure, and for the record, is there any reason why the applicant isn't here? Because it's a shame. Look, we can ask more questions down the line. Have you received anything from the applicant or the owner of the business, for the record?
I think we do that in a minute when it comes to the applicant. Is that all right, Councillor?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
If I may, obviously, yes, I must apologise, Councillor Farley, I didn't answer the second half of your question as to whether or not they have other premises and why they didn't apply for one immediately. Obviously, in the absence of the applicant, that's a very difficult question for me to answer. They would be able to tell you how many other licences they have, if any at all, and why they did what they did. So.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Farley?
Also, you mentioned about the opening for sort of discussion and mediation. One part of it is reasons as to why the 1 metre on the left-hand side was thought not to be acceptable. Maybe it's because of past behaviour, I don't know. I also, because unfortunately the diagram that's in the pack just says 2 metres from shop front. The pavement is quite wide. I have been doing some sort of Google Street View looks and things, just to understand what the gap is between basically the entire width of the pavement, and how much space would be between the curbside and the 2 metre space that they've applied for.
I can get that information for you, Councillor, from GIS mapping. We can do a rough measurement for you. I'm quite happy to do that. That's why I have my laptop here with me today, in case you need that information. We do tend to go by what our highways team suggest is an appropriate space, because obviously they are the authority in terms of pedestrian access on the footpath. Am I given to understand, and having been there myself, that there's some street furniture in the vicinity of the premises, and that's why it was felt by highways that 1 metre to the left-hand side of the shop as you look at it, and nothing on the right-hand side, because then that would narrow the space between the shop front and then the existing street furniture, forcing pedestrians to go around or perhaps even walk into the road. But I'm quite happy to provide that information for you for part of your deliberations.
Yes, Councillor Farley?
Sorry, thank you. Some more questions. Again, doing a little bit of historical research. Next door is a coffee shop, restaurant to the left. That I believe has dining, outside dining. I also understand, going back in, again, history, and things may have changed in terms of licensing and so forth, but there was a pub, I believe, that was next door to the site, which also had outdoor dining, and that was next to the zebra crossing, which was allowed at the time. Maybe that isn't the case now. So I just want to give some clarity on that, please. Thank you.
So, in all likelihood, the businesses that are food and drink led, like pubs, cafes, restaurants, in all likelihood, those licences for dining outside would have been pavement licences, which is a separate regime to this particular street trading application. Each of those are consulted upon. They go to our highways team as well as to ward councillors. Obviously, without looking at the history for those particular premises, I can't see whether or not there were objections raised to the issuing of those licences. But it's all done on a case-by-case basis. So it's quite possible that if the pavement is wider at that section and there's no street furniture, which is then reducing the width of the pavement, that's why those licences were granted. But they are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. And if highways did not object and no further objections were received, then that pavement licence would be granted.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to confirm as well, there are different licences as well. So just getting back onto this particular licence and the regulations behind this licence that we're talking about now, and just confirming, as I said, officers' reports too.
If I may just, Chair, just to clarify, I was just seeking to understand in terms of distance, because I could, again, history, I was trying to understand how that may have been allowed, which again, separate licence, but given the space, it was sort of get the context. Thank you.
That's absolutely fine. Councillor Davis.
Just so I can get some clarification on that. So the difference in licences is one is on a time period, the other one could be permanent for unlimited amount of time, yeah? So a pavement trading licence could potentially be from 6 a.m. till 6 a.m. 24/7, whereas a separate licence for pubs, etc., could be on a time window, say between 12 and 1, 12 and 2.
So we're talking about pavement licences, Councillor, just to be clear. So when an applicant applies for a pavement licence, they will put the hours on there that they would like to operate from the pavement, and then depending on what their premises licence says in terms of alcohol, that will have an impact on the hours. But we would then look at that as well, because obviously people being out on the street late at night. So it's not a carte blanche that they could be out there from 6 a.m. till midnight. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. And bringing this back to street trading, there is also times that they can apply for, and again, we would look at that on a case-by-case basis and see whether or not, that there's a nuisance aspect. Hence, we will consult with our environmental protection and street scene enforcement teams to see whether or not, a street trader operating from 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, whether there's going to be any nuisance aspects with that. So there is a space element and also nuisance aspects as well. But like I said, they are two separate regimes, and what gets granted for a pavement licence and a street trading licence can be different depending on the applications and the consultations and the responses received.
Perfect, that was it. I just needed to know the difference. That's fine, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I've just got one further question, just clarification really. Has the applicant contacted us after obviously displaying the notice, and since the goods haven't been there either, has there been any contact, any communication, any ability to resolve or say why the boxes, etc., are outside?
So, Councillor, there's been nothing from the applicant in terms of an explanation. When I notified the applicant that there have been these objections and the matter was going to a hearing, I didn't get a response from him, so I then rang him, and he said that he wouldn't be able to attend, but that somebody else would come in his place. And then I had an email, sorry, it wasn't a phone call, it was an email, let me get that right. It was an email from him confirming that he would send his manager of the premises instead. But having spoken to the manager this morning, they were not aware that there was an in-person hearing taking place. They were prepared that they might be having to attend virtually, and were waiting for a link, but nothing had been received. The manager hadn't received anything from the applicant in terms of a link to watch the hearing or participate in virtually, or that it was an in-person hearing. Hence, there is nobody here today, I'm afraid, to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, thank you. I think that's what Councillor Davis was saying. So that's wonderful. Is there any other questions? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Just within the bundle, the other traders that are around that to have these licences, the map that's been provided centres sort of on the southern end as well. I am aware that further to the north there are also similar establishments that sell similar products and DIY and whatnot. Again, with the size of the pavement, is that more narrow at the north than it is at the south? I think it might be, but yeah.
Yes, Councillor, I think it might be as well, actually, but I'm quite happy to double-check that. But I think that might be reflected in the fact that something like, for example, Daisy Chain, which is number 30, which is in that more northerly end, I mean, they only have 1 metre street trading, and I believe the pavement is narrower there. But again, I'm happy to confirm that for you from GIS mapping, if that helps with your deliberations, as I have access to that on my laptop.
Thank you. And going back to the mention of the stock, when it had been placed outside, I mean, some of the pictures, obviously there's things here with trolleys and things that have just been left, this is like sweepers and brushes and whatnot. Is there any, I mean, I know that I'm trying to not go into sort of further discussion points, but the actual stuff that was there, because there's been mention within here of loose vinyl. I'm not sure exactly what that was referring to, but yes, I mean that I'm trying to understand what kind of things were out there, what was secured, what was loose, other than what was in the pictures.
Well, obviously, Councillor, I can only comment on what I physically saw when I took those photographs. So that is a representation of what was out on the pavement at the time of my visit. As for the other complaints, and obviously they're listed in here, but I can't confirm or whether or not there were lots of loose things, and in particular I think it was the vinyl. Somebody said it was blowing across the pavement. Without having seen that myself, I can't make any comments on that. These pictures are ones that I took on site, which is what was on display at the time. I would point out that in Appendix 2 of our street trading policy, there is a list of categories of commodities, and so household goods, which is what the gentleman has applied for. Generally speaking, there's a whole host of items that would fall under household goods. So as long as he's just displaying what was in that particular category that he's applied for, that's what we would expect to be out on the pavement. If they want anything other than that, then they have to specifically mention that on their application and have it written onto his actual licence, so that when enforcement officers are visiting, we can see to make sure that everything that is on the pavement is actually covered by the licence. But yes, in terms of that vinyl, I can't comment on that one at all, I'm afraid, Councillor.
Yeah, I was just because I wasn't sure that was vinyl, something was being sold, or something that was part of how they maybe tried to secure things and was flapping about. I wasn't clear, but thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Farley. I think we'll stop there if that's okay with you, because we'll come on to that when we have a look at the residents' objections. Thank you very much, Lois. Thank you for your in-depth report. I think we found it very useful, and a couple of pointers. Thank you, councillors, for picking up some of the pointers that were on the report. We would now normally go to the applicant. As we have heard, the applicant is not available and is not here. He was contacted just before the meeting at 9:59 and was unaware that he had to be present, the manager of Home Needs. So they are not here, they are not present, so we will move on. We have in our pack, in our agenda pack, we have a list of the objections from councillors and also from residents. It's a shame the applicant isn't here, because I know we all have questions that we would like to ask the applicant. I know some of my concerns have been raised around safety, highway safety exactly on the pavement area, also around the actual goods that are being displayed, which is what you said, Councillor Farley, also around the applicant's knowledge of the licensing. So what training he's undergone and what understanding he has around the London Borough of Hillingdon's licensing policies, which I really would like to ask. Also, I wanted to ask around, and I'm sure you're the same, around why the goods were placed out there as well, and why he wasn't adhered to straight away when we came in. So I think there's quite a bit there, but unfortunately he is not here. In our pack, as you note, we do have the councillors' reports, so I won't read them out because we have got them in the pack. We have noted the residents' objections, so the councillor objections and the resident objections in there. Some of that comes on to what you were saying, Councillor Farley, about the lino that was on there as well. Okay, thank you very much. So we do have a member in the public gallery, so I just wanted to confirm that you do not wish to speak or object. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Thank you for that. So I think going through, when we looked at just to give our viewers an idea, mainly the objections were around risk assessment, they around the goods that are being displayed, about how sturdy they would be if there had been a wind or anything like that coming through. There was also, as I said, the conditions, it's a pavement hazard, but they hadn't actually adhered to any of our regulations prior to putting a pavement licence in. I can see street trading licence. Thank you. Street trading licence. I'm going to pass over to the councillors if there's anything you would like to bring to our attention that's in the objections and that's in the councillors' reports. There might not be, but...
There's not a lot from me, but I do think it needs to be noted that there was 15 resident objections. I think the number should definitely be included, and it's a shame that the applicant isn't here.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Davies. Completely agree. Councillor Farley.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with Councillor Davies on that. I just wanted to get some clarification. I'll go find the right page it was on. There was reference to conservation area, and in terms of the again, I'm not sure if this is the right point to make this to ask this, or maybe we need to wait into another session or another part of the meeting. But it was to do with the conservation area, and I wanted to get some clarity on that. I think it's on. A second. Yeah, so you're on page 8. So So we have appearance of the trading area where the street trading scene is properly constructed and presented and enhances the aesthetic street scene of an area. Guidance will be given to applicants regarding the standard expected by the council. I just want to get a little bit more understanding about that point, if possible. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Farley. So just to confirm, it is certainly a point we can put in for consideration, being conservation, but there's no legalities behind that. Is that right?
There's no special provisions in relation to a
There's
conservation.
no special provision
Yes, that's correct.
in relation to conservation. Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, is there any further? No? Okay, so we will now... Oh, sorry. Yes, of course, Councillor Farley.
Sorry, thank you. Just on the timings that's been applied for, I was just wondering if this is typical of Ruislip High Street or not. Thank you. That being till 7 o'clock in the evening. That's what.
So I think that might be a question for you, Lois.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I'm quite happy to just quickly look at those individual licences for you and let you know what those times are. I don't have them to hand, but I can look the licences up and give you that information for your deliberations.
Thank you very much. Is there any more questions? No? Okay, so we will go to discussion. Closing remarks. But I think, have we got closing remarks, Lois?
Only just to say that I've already got a couple of answers for the councillors' questions in relation to the poster. I had an email on the 24th of April advising that the poster had been displayed and with a picture of the poster. So the visit was made on Friday the 19th and the email advising it was on display and sending me a photo was the 24th of April. And in terms of the size of the pavement outside home needs, according to GIS maps, it's approximately 4.5 metres, but GIS maps can't tell me how much space there is between the shop front and the bench, for example, or a bin or a tree. So apologies, Councillor, I can't give you that information, but I will subsequently, for your discussions, provide the times on those particular licences that already exist in that area, and I'll do that shortly for you.
Thank you. Can I just clarify that? Is that 5 days between when we told them to when it was placed? Is that the 19th to 24th you said, didn't you? I just want to clarify.
Obviously, Councillor, I can't say when it was in the window. That's the date of which an email was sent to me. With respect to the owner and giving the benefit of the doubt, he could have put it up that very afternoon. He could have put it up the very next day, but obviously there's a delay in him sending that email to me, so I can't say that it took him 5 days to put it up. I can only say that I was notified that it was on display 5 days later, so I just want to make that clear, that he could have put it up the next day and there was just a delay in sending me the email.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. So it's actually put up. He actually sent you the photo 5 days later. Thank you. Okay, so that's our finishing, really, our discussion and the closing of each party's remarks. We will now be discussing and debating and deliberating as we close. So we will come off YouTube and we'll ask people to leave the room. Thank you.